Welcome to Testimony Mountain. We are still on the road and just wanted to share a clip from a group recently where Muriel was sharing about an intensive that she had with Ken and I and her experience of that and testimony about that. So enjoy this with Muriel.
So I wanted to share a little bit, especially since we were talking about emotions today, about the intensive that I had last week on Thursday. I got really sick starting Tuesday night, and I was like totally wiped out last Wednesday and was barely functioning. And I'm like, I need a miracle. And I reached out on a few WhatsApp groups that we already had established. And I was like, could you please pray for me because I need a miracle in order to do an intensive. And I woke up Thursday morning with the cold acted like it was kind of like gone. I mean, not entirely. I was still coughing a little and very runny nose and that sort of thing, but not anything like the day before. So that was one miracle or one part of the miracle. And then I knew that the we were aiming for 4 hours intensive. And that's like seems like an eternity to me because usually I work with Adena for an hour and a half every week, but half of that time is transformation stuff usually. And so I know it was like, yeah, I usually get blocked about 20 minutes in and can't hear anything more. I'm like, then I'm done. And so I was like, I don't know, Lord. I don't know. Are you sure I'm supposed to be doing this? And so I had the freedom, thankfully. Adina was like, we'll just go till we go and no more. And it's not a big deal um, if we end early. So that really took a lot of pressure off. And we got into the time for it to start, and we, invited True Family in like we do, and um, basically felt like I thought that Adina was going to lead, and I had invited Ken to come too because I knew that he has a real good gift of seeing in the spirit and stuff. And I thought, well, if I get stuck, he'll help me out. Um, and instead, True Family was like, no, Ken's supposed to lead it. And it kind of almost freaked me out a little bit because not because he was a man or anything like that, but just because it was different from my expectation. But after I was like, well, if True Family wants, there's a reason for it. So our intent was to go through the gateways with me. Um, and make sure things were closed and that we're supposed to be closed and open for the things that were supposed to be open for True Families access. And so he started out with the pineal gland, and it was like right off the bat he saw this altar that I had created made of 9 stones. So gateways are things like yeah, and is there a resource for it? So gateways are things like your eyes, your ears, your nose, your mouth, your skin, things like that. There can be physical, but there's also spiritual eyes and nose and ears and mouth and whatever, and soul things. Sex magic can open portals and gateways, and there can be a lot of stuff depending on the trauma or whatever that you've experienced. He saw this altar that I had erected, and it was composed of 9 stones, and each stone stood for something. And the one I'm going to tell you about today was that the Lord gave me was anger and rage, was the stone that I had put there. And so I had taken all that anger and rage that had, come up for emotions for me and created it as part of this altar to this God, that wasn't true family. And um, then Ken also saw that my cloud of witnesses was there for during the intensive, and that they were really hurting because of my anger and rage. And I was flabbergasted. I was like, what in the world? How can my holding on to this anger be hurting them? It wasn't like I was, spewing things at them. I could see that, because I have erupted like a volcano many times in my life, in my 20s and 30s especially. And I knew, that it was time to release this anger, but I wasn't able to. And now when I'm seeing it, oh, well, I wasn't able to release it because it's part of this altar that I've established in my internal realm. And and it was so hard for me to fathom that it was hurting other people for me to be holding on to that. And I get that there's a frequency that goes out and, it affects your whatever sphere around you. Yeah. In my head. But in my heart, I was like, but as I was handing this stone over to Jesus, I saw it transform to these huge flames of fire, very, very hot flames. And they actually burned Jesus. And it was like, I mean, I became not devastated, but like really, I could tell this wasn't just head knowledge anymore. In my heart, I understood how my anger, even though I wasn't aiming at it to hurt him, was hurting him. And um, it was a like in my head, I understand what he did for me on the cross, but I have a hard time understanding it in my inner realm, in my heart. And this opened that up to such like awareness and understanding of what he truly paid for me on the cross. And how if it hurts him, how it could also, unbeknownst to me, be hurting others, my cloud of witnesses, the people in my life, you all, even unintentionally. And it went so deep that it was like, oh my goodness, it wasn't like I fell apart or anything like that. It wasn't like a blame shame thing. It was just this deep understanding of the wounding that we can cause other people by not dealing with our emotions correctly. And I basically had it in an idol. Like, oh, I must have really valued that anger and rage and thought it was an important thing to hang on to. Um, and I don't have all the memories of what's happened, but some of the few that I have had come surface, I mean, there were some horrendous things and reason for the anger and the rage. But nonetheless, because I had not handled them appropriately and and dealt with them mainly because I was too young to even probably know and nobody really helped me. Like I never remember my parents, discussing how to deal with anger and things that you can do to release the tension and all that stuff. Um that I was like, you know, ignorant in some regards, at least in my presenter self, you know. But it was an offering or part of an offering to God, lower G. God. And so, anyway, that giving that over, I was like, wow, that is really powerful. And then I kind of was, we continued. Oh, by the way, that altar of 9 stones took us about 3 hours to work through. It was that deep. Yeah. And I'm not going to go into details with what all they are because I don't have my notes in front of me and I, you know, don't want to try to go, what was that? But anyway, that was so powerful. And then I had this dear friend of mine email me and go, well, have you seen any changes? And I was like, well, yeah, why have I seen any changes? Because, yeah, we can have these encounters, and if it doesn't actually change anything, what good is it? I knew something had changed, but I hadn't, it wasn't like this night and day, okay, I have everything under control now. It was, even though it was huge in a way, um, it was a small change. And I just had felt more at peace for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, starting Sunday, it was like I had all this gratitude. And it was like growing and bubbling over where I couldn't contain it. I think it was either Sunday night or Monday. I had to start sending out messages to people of how grateful I was, or I felt like I was going to burst, literally. It was that like filled up. And as I was processing, I realized, wow, I never really experienced gratitude before like this. It was always like, people would go, well, you should do a gratitude journal. And I'd be like racking my brain to come up with one thing, let alone 3 things or 5 things like they said I was supposed to do in the journal. And I'm like, what's wrong with me that I'm not grateful for anything? And now it's like I can't contain it. There's just this overwhelming. And I realized as I was processing that anchor, rock, whatever that thing was, it was a boulder apparently, blocked me from having a godly emotion. And it filled up all the space. And there's probably a lot more to it too that as I process will come, but it was it is night and day in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying, oh, I don't get mad at things, but because like I was kind of mad at my computer earlier when it wouldn't connect to my earbuds. But it really has created a change in me that I would have never associated gratitude with anger. Never. But I know that that's so, that one was blocking the other. And so, yay for small changes and baby steps, because I know now that that anchor point at least is gone, and there may still be anger that I need to deal with, and that's okay. But I have a deeper understanding of God's work for me on my behalf. I have a deeper understanding of how the emotions that I hang on to and that aren't dealt with properly affect other people. And those are valuable, valuable lessons. So I wanted to share that with you, and I highly recommend an intensive. I'm not saying that, you'll get the same things I do at all. God has things for you. But if you feel inclined, go for it.
I hope you enjoyed this testimony from Muriel about overcoming in this area of her life, and I hope it encourages you on your journey as well. She shared this in one of our transformation groups, which she also is a facilitator as well. And wanted to let you know that we are having new groups starting in the end of January. And if you are interested, we have two Q&A Zooms that you can participate in. One is December 6th. It's a Saturday at 2 p.m. Central Time. And the other is January 17th, 2 p.m. Central Time. And that's also a Saturday. This will be just a time for you to come on and ask any questions. I'll be sharing a little bit more about transformations and what you can expect. And you can register for that by emailing me at Adena, Adena, at transformations.community. And look forward to seeing you there. These groups are for those who've experienced any kind of trauma. Most groups have a range of people in it from I hate to call any trauma minimal, but smaller traumas to those who have experienced satanic ritual abuse and mind control. And in these groups, I believe you'll find healing, strength, encouragement, overcoming, and so much more. So come to one of our Q&As, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Bless you.